Um, what do you want? I'm fine. I don't need you.
Welcome, Blue Robots Matter, Brainwashed Teens, and Unoriginal Jewelry, to episode 446 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 12th of April 2022, and featuring K-9 Sirens of Ceres, written by Deborah Parsons and starring John Leeson as K-9, Keegan Joyce as Starkey, Philippa Coulthard as Georgie Turner, Daniel Weber as Darius Pike, and Robert Maloney as Alistair Griffin. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I'm glad I read that cast list because this episode sure didn't give enough attention to half the cast to remember their names. With me are Alex Fireheart.
Just when we think we've gotten away from large cast listings.
And Mad Matt Winchell.
I need another drink. This one's Mountain Dew. Earlier, I had harder cider, Mike's Harder Lemonade.
Nice. Randy Ronson McCulloch is feeling a bit under the weather. It is flu season. It's also still COVID season. Hopefully it's more the former than the latter. And hopefully he'll be feeling well soon.
That being said, COVID has become very mild lately. I mean, I'm sure for certain people like Randy, it's still dangerous, but my coworker got it a second time, and she was literally felt sick only one day.
So, if you're double or triple, especially if you're triple vaxxed and it's Omicron, it's far less likely to be dangerous than like if you got Delta and you're unvaxxed or something like that. For someone with like a weak immune system or weak lungs, it's still going to be shit.
Yeah.
And in certain parts of the country where they've just stopped testing and stopped any sort of healthcare and have gone back to 2019, I'm sure it can be very deadly for some people. I'm still being as safe as I can personally, but my university and my town have both said everything's optional except for the buses.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't have to wear masks at work anymore, but I'm just like, fuck this. I don't trust people.
Usually when I teach, there's two people in the room, including me, in a mask. In a room of like 25 people.
I think in general, when I'm at work, there's maybe a grand total of maybe 4 or 5 people in town that still wear masks to our store.
Aren't there only like 10 people in your town?
No. No, there's quite a few more than that. We're Mayville, not Mayberry. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if this counts as more cheerful news, but it's at least getting us off of the existential depression that is COVID. But Gilbert Gottfried just passed, and he's not in our news, so I figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
From my generation, you would know him as Iago. If you're a little older, you would know him for stand-up, and I'm sure, I mean, he's done stand-up since then, but my formative memory of him was as a parrot.
Yeah. Also, he was a character in Angry Video Game Nerd for an episode where he actually portrayed a character that's very much a part of Angry Video Game Nerd lore.
Interesting.
I forget the name, but it's a name that popped up like within the first 2 years of the show.
Was it Fred Fox?
Yes.
I knew they had done some sort of skit involving that, like somebody playing that programmer, designer, whatever you would want to call him. So I guess a semi-educated guess. I had no idea it was Gottfried playing him.
Yes, Gottfried played Fred Fox in an episode where they were making fun of a PlayStation 4 game. I think it was Black Tiger or something like that. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it's a really like barely a game that released on PlayStation 4 and somehow got a lot of advertisement before it was released, and it's like, what is this garbage?
Yeah.
I guess another more recent thing people might know him for is that he was like once paid to read the first 50 Shades of Grey book, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I think most people who have done voice work have been paid to read at least a chapter of 50 Shades.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those things of like, just...
I
can
like
see
his
why
reaction
someone...
after he was done reading it. Holy cow, this is wrong! But holy hell, is it erotic!
Also know that like an Australian streamer I follow actually paid him to do some little voice clips for her to use on stream, which is quite funny.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, a guy I watch that does VR or has taken a month-long hiatus now, called Lolthon. He and a couple of friends have actually paid Godfrey to do like different voice clips, and one of them was actually calling him was supposed to be Godfrey in the point of view of Lolthon while calling out all his other friends that he usually co-works with. So it's been interesting because yeah, he's got a lot of sounds from Godfrey, so I will not be surprised if I happen to look later on tonight and see that there's a lot of stuff in his feed about that.
So how are you all's weeks going?
So yeah, other than sad news, I got done a 9.5 hour shift today, which is why I needed the hard lemonade. Because I was feeling the pain while also eating chicken. So I guzzled that big can down, and I've kind of figured afterwards, I think I'm good on that.
Is it wrong that one of the reasons I've drank so little alcohol lately is that when I get my groceries delivered, I can't be arsed to find my ID and go to the door and show them I'm over 21, so I just only order non-alcoholic drinks.
You don't have your ID regularly on hand already?
Not when I'm in my, not when I'm chilling around the house in my sweatpants. I have to find the pants I wore the day before, pull my wallet out of them.
It's less than a foot away from me.
It's more the part about going to the door and making small talk with the driver than anything else. Especially since they always come when I'm taking a shit. I don't know how they know. It's like Instacart sends them a notification. He's on the toilet. Go, 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 go. Sorry if that was TMI.
Other than that, not much to say. I've only gotten one stream in, but I hopefully in the next couple days we'll be able to get a lot more stuff done because I have 3 days off. Thank the Lord.
Theoretically.
We'll see. I'm not answering calls tomorrow. I'm going to do laundry.
I applaud you.
Especially after 9.5 hours in one day.
Yeah, like I've been back at work for like a little over a week now, and it's just like Oh, right. That's why I probably needed a month off, because my fucking joints get so goddamn sore.
You
From
know
all
why
the
I'm glad not
repetitive
to be working in
lifting and
food
stuff.
service anymore.
Like all the like repetitive sweeping and like grabbing all the bins out and stuff. Like most, because like yeah, it's like it's school holidays that I've come back to. So most of the time, at least last week, it's not. It oddly wasn't as busy this week so far. Um, which is also more surprising because it's Easter this weekend. Um, and the shops are shut Friday, so I figured it would be like just as busy, but it was actually kind of dead to start with on like yesterday. Um, but yeah, hasn't like I've been holding up better than I thought I would, because I thought I'd be getting like super exhausted because I did not, as much as I meant to like keep physically active while I was off work, I didn't really, or at least not as much as I'd hoped. Um, so the fact that while I was getting like tired, I wasn't like ready to collapse on my bed and just conk out for 14 hours or something kind of tired. It was kind of like, oh, okay, so I guess I'm just a decent level of fitness for me at the moment, I guess. um Still, I mean, I've probably dropped weight since I started back just by virtue of the fact that I'm like getting 16 hours of exercise a week now, essentially. Um, yeah, basically just been that and realizing, wow, it really just shows how much, even though I'm only working like 4-hour shifts, it really shows how much of my day is just gone because of that, because of when I wake up usually. Like I usually at this point just wake up just enough in time to get ready and leave.
Yeah,
um
you work the 4 hours, but there's also like the hour or two beforehand of setup, and then the hour, a couple hours at least afterwards of just trying to cool your heels after you're done.
Hmm.
mm, um and like, it's funny, like I was getting into the habit of just like eating on my 20-minute break. So I like when I got home I could just immediately try to get home and have a shower. And then like I'm just so used to being distracted. Like I'm just so easily distracted that there'd be times where it'd be like 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh fucking hell, I still haven't showered yet. um, which is annoying as hell. But yeah, basically it's just been getting readjusted to work. Seemingly they just kind of completed my certificate 3 in cleaning without me, which is hilarious. Um, because like that just showed up in the mail while I was off work. And I was like, "Wait, what?" I didn't even like remember finishing that because it was essentially like doing it over the phone. But I had to do it at work. Um, Pardon me. But yeah, it was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess I've just got this now." So if I ever actually have the money to move, at least I'll have that to lean back on as something that I can say, "Hey, I've got this now." So that'll might help with job hunting. Um, yeah, basically it's just been that. I like I don't know how many times I've tried playing GTA 3, but I'm on like my probably like fifth try to try and get through the whole thing now. And also bought and started playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot last week, which
I
I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but probably a while.
I hear Kakarot's good, although I've not gotten a chance to get around to it. Grand Theft Auto 3 is fun for the most part, although I will say the last mission's BS, and I had to cheat every time I've ever beaten that last mission.
Mm,
Every time I get to that last mission, I almost immediately die in that first shootout. So what I have to do is I literally have to do the weapon and armor cheat immediately in order to survive. Then I have to
mm,
summon up a vehicle because they don't leave you any decent vehicles that aren't immediately gonna get trashed. And then I have to stop far enough away that I can start sniping the snipers before they can snipe me.
Mm.
And then slowly get closer as I have to hit more and more targets before I finish the mission.
So for my own week, I'm ramping up toward the end of the semester, which means I've just done a teaching demonstration and need to prepare a second one. I am guiding my undergraduates through a final project, which feels like herding cats who can speak English and ask the same questions over and over. Um, some of them I blame for it more than others. On one hand, I'm really looking forward to having May and being able to relax a little bit. On the other hand, that means I have papers and presentations to finish between now and May. So, yay. All right. I guess we should move on to tonight's show. All right. So, on tonight's show, we have birthdays and news. We have a couple pieces of geek talk, our episode summary, and our review, final thoughts, and ratings. So start with the birthdays. Not many birthdays this week that were of the caliber we normally cover. But we did have Mark Strickson on April 6th, who turned 63, who viewers would know from playing Turlo in the Fifth Doctor era. Nev McIntosh, who played Madame Vastra in the 11th Doctor era, turned 50 on the 9th, 11th and 12th Doctor era, excuse me. And then on today, Elspeth Gray, who played Chancellor Talia in Arc of Infinity, a one-off character, but a Time Lord, and we usually cover Time Lords, would have been 93 and died in 2013 at the age of 83. So that was the bottomest of the barrel that we dug for this week. So happy birthday, Mark, Nev, and Elspeth. We move on to Doctor Who news, which Alex is marked for.
Crickets. Alex,
Have we lost you?
did you mute yourself?
Not on Discord.
Oh,
there you are.
Yeah, I guess my mic just decided to play up for no reason. That's weird. Almost thought I had accidentally kept myself muted for something, but no, it was just my mic playing up. Anyway, the official air times have been released for this weekend's Legend of the Sea Devils. The special will air at 7:10, I'm assuming PM, British Summer Time on BBC One, and 2:10 PM Eastern Daylight Time on BBC America. The announcement also included the guest cast list.
So all the estimates were off by 10 minutes.
Which means they were right.
Yeah, so most of the guest cast we already knew. Obviously, we knew who Jodie Whittaker, Mandip Gill, and John Bishop were playing. We knew Crystal Yu as Madam Ching, who apparently has multiple Chinese names. I don't think we knew Arthur Lee as Ji Hoon, but I don't know who that character actually is in context. Marlo Chan Reeves as Ying Qi, same thing. I think this is news. Craig Ells as Sea Devil leader Marcissus. We knew the name, but not that he was the leader. And David K.C. as Ying Wai. Likely Ying Qi's father, who was killed by Madam Cheng. Okay.
Revenge.
Right.
A dish best served cold in the sea.
So this might be a you killed my father, prepare to die episode. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yep. Is that all we have to say about that one?
Yeah.
Not much else to
All
say
right.
other than yay official dates.
Yep.
Yep. So with cast and crew news, the Radio Times recently published an interview with Chris Chibnall as part of the press for Legend of the Sea Devils. Chibnall mentioned that, unlike Russell T Davies, he plans to never return to Doctor Who, although RTD also said that. Chibnall also mentioned that he expected RTD to ignore the changes he made to Doctor Who continuity. The most interesting piece from the interview is a discussion of production in 2020 during COVID restrictions. Chibnall confirmed that plans for a full season were cut down to 6 episodes during that time, and that they had to completely scrap the originally planned New Year's special and write a new script in just over a week. Chibnall referred to the fact that the 13th season was produced despite everything a miracle, and mentioned that there was a point around April-May 2020 where it looked like he and Jodie Whittaker would have to call it a day after 2 series. He followed up by saying if he hadn't already planned to leave the show after a 3rd season, he would have left after that experience regardless.
So there may have been some truth to all the rumors that are like Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker are quitting. They're quitting. They're quitting. Just a grain of truth.
Yeah.
Small grain of truth, yeah.
Yep.
Although suddenly now that does make Flux's like breakneck speed opening like make way more sense.
Right.
Sorry, Flux still doesn't make any fucking sense, period,
Yeah,
anyways.
It doesn't say how many episodes were planned or how much time they had to do rewrites for that. Just the New Year's special. And although I think we criticized the New Year's special as being a bit repetitive, so if they had only a week to write it, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if like there was supposed to be a bit more build up, but then they lost. I would have to believe when he says full season, that would be in a Chibnall sense, so 10. So they must have
like
lost
10 to
4
13.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which
like,
is almost half being cut, yeah.
Yeah. So like, and that, that makes a lot of sense insofar as why the first episode is just so bloody stacked with shit, because it's like, okay, we're having to. This makes me think though, then that actually would have been a lot more drawn out, or at least some of those things maybe wouldn't have. I don't. I guess that's even just me speculating. For all we know, it would have been exactly the same.
They still would have been as anticlimactic.
I do wonder if it's one of those things where like, oh, this was an episode, a scene for episode 3. Well, we cut episode 3. Okay, let's just make it part of the new episode 3, which is a completely different part of the story, but we like the scene or something like that.
I still presume that it'll be just as anticlimactic and just as nonsensical.
I mean, like,
I'm sure the main chestnuts of the story are there.
Oh yeah, the main thrust of the story would still exist. It's just a matter of like things that seem to be like gone through at a breakneck speed probably had more like meat to them previously. Is what I would assume anyway. Like that again, like the first episode could have always been intended to be as like packed with stuff as it was, but like, it would also not surprise me if it was not meant to be as thing as it was. And hell, like the fact that we only have oh god, I can never remember a name, but like the Time Lord lady that seems to be behind a bunch of shit, like
right.
She's just
the
kind
leader.
of like she's just kind of there and then gone very quickly. It would not surprise me if we were supposed to get like a full episode with her, but the episodes being cut down meant that we didn't.
Right.
You mean
it's even possible I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
Tecteun.
Tecteun.
Wait, Matt is the one remembering the name? Matt
Weird,
is the
right?
person who can remember
Yes,
names
yes, I remember
today.
a name because I hate it.
We need to put this
What
on
a
the
waste of
calendar.
a character and a waste of our time.
But it's even possible the ending was supposed to be more complete, and that might be part of
Yeah.
why they had to rewrite the New Year's special. Like maybe part of the stuff that we're not going to see until October was originally going to be part of the season. Again, that's all speculation. I have no idea if any of that's true, but maybe.
Yeah.
It's also possible they wanted to film on location, and the BBC was like, "Yeah, you're not filming on location with a pandemic."
I mean, I could also see like there's that one line in the New Year's special where it's like, "Oh, you saved the universe last week," and it's like, well, what's left of it?
Hate.
So I'm like, was that
Hate.
supposed to be a thing resolved in it, or
Mm-hmm.
like, but they had to cut it for time, like, you know.
Yeah, there's between Legopolis and Flux, there's not much of the universe left at this point.
If that was supposed to mean that they actually did repair the universe, show don't tell.
Yeah. Or at least like, run with the consequences of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, can't be bothered.
Oh,
Not-
that does give a decent setup to RTD. Like RTD started off with like the first season was all like refugees from the Time War. My planet was destroyed during the Time War. I was a soldier in the Time War. So the first season of RTD could easily be like my planet was destroyed by the Flux. The Daleks killed my family during the Flux, etc., etc.
Yeah. Because it is funny that Chibnall's like, oh, I expect him to I expect him to ignore stuff I brought up. And I'm thinking, honestly, of all of the people that could be taking over after Chibnall, RTD to me feels like someone who would absolutely be all for the Timeless Child stuff.
Hmm.
Like,
or at
I
least
don't
trying to
know,
repair it
like...
into something sensical.
Well, yeah, like I don't assume he'll ignore it so much as he might flesh it out or do something else with it or something. But also, given that if so much as like ignore it as not so much retcon it, but just kind of be like, what? That thing? Oh yeah, we're just never gonna reference it again. But I almost
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
that was just me getting lied
RTD
to by
would
the
be the kind of
master.
person that
Typical
would.
master. Moving on.
Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could see RTD being the kind of person who would go, "Ooh, I like this because it makes the Doctor the center of the universe again," which I hate, but the show loves doing.
Well, it is a show
At
called
least New
Doctor
Who,
Who.
anyway.
It's a show called Doctor Who. If the Doctor's not a main part of the show, then what the hell's the show
Well,
about?
main part of the show and Star of the Universe are not the same thing. Like
Yeah.
he went 26 seasons without being the star of the universe. He was just a madman in a box.
And it got duller and duller and duller.
It's like it's one of those things of like I've seen it pointed out of like how can the Doctor supposed to be a representation of someone who's anti-authority when they are now the highest authority in the universe? Like it's kind of hard to buy.
You
The
either die a
Doctor is,
hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Or live long enough to see yourself attack eyebrows.
Gotta be so funny if after all this the Valiard comes back. I doubt it, but
Actually, the Valiard doing some sort of secret behind the scenes shenanigans would actually make a lot of sense at this point. Would go a long way to help save some continuity. But anyways, we're rambling hard on this one.
All right, so moving on with other news. Um, so we move on to audio releases, and the BBC has announced a new series of audio stories, which will become available via its podcast platform, BBC Sounds, which I had never heard of and needed to look up to confirm what it is. But it is a podcast platform and app run by the BBC.
Hmm.
It is Doctor Who Redacted, which is a 10-part series that will debut on Sunday, April 17, which will star Charlie Craggs as Cleo Proctor, Lois Chimimba as Abby McPhail, and Holly Keane Ankra as Shauna Thompson. Hopefully I pronounced all those correctly, although I probably messed up at least one of them. And will feature appearances by characters such as the Doctor, Ronnie Chandra, Kate Stewart, Petronella Osgood, and Madame Vastra, all played by their original actors. Redacted will be scripted by Juno Dawson, whose past works include the Doctor Who novel The Good Doctor and the Torchwood Big Finish audio dramas Or and The Dollhouse.
Of course, my favorite reaction to this bit of news was someone jokingly saying, "Wow, RTD's not even officially back yet, and the spin-offs are already starting."
Spin-offs begin.
Nice.
Forward march.
Man, I am a bit curious about this. It doesn't say how long each episode will be. Like, it could be any. I mean, if it's on a podcast platform and other things are referring to as a podcast, I'm guessing it's not like 3-minute shorts. But then again, it could be. They could be 10 3-minute episodes. They could be 10 3-hour episodes. We don't know.
Although that being all of this also being said, RTD, if you want to bring back Madame Vastra and Jenny and actually do stuff with them, by all means do.
Mm.
Those were your babies, and they just got kind of sidelined. But it doesn't mean that nothing can't be done with them.
Right.
I mean, they never got killed off or anything.
Mm-hmm. So. They've got a few years in their books now, and you can do some interesting stuff with them in a real short time.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I imagine that's part of why they're on here. Like, all of these characters are ones that people would probably be interested in seeing more from. It's interesting. Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, Ronnie is the one that we keep seeing come back. Like she came back in that Big Finish special. She's coming back in this, but then compared to all the other Sarah Jane Adventures crew that we hear nothing about, but I guess she's the one that's available and working frequently with the BBC.
I suppose, yeah. She literally was a monster a couple seasons ago.
Yep, twice. Once animated and once live action. All right, moving on to Big Finish. The 8th Doctor Adventures Stranded 4 was released on April 6, featuring 4 stories written by Matt Fitton, Lisa McMullen, Roy Gill, and John Dorney, and starring Paul McGann, Nicola Walker, Hattie Morahan, and I found this one interesting, Colin Baker as the curator.
Interesting.
But he's wearing his doctor coat, so I don't know what the fuck is going on with that. Although it might just be that they took a stock photo of current day Colin Baker and he happened to be wearing his doctor coat. I have no idea.
Which happens a lot, to be fair.
Yeah. He hated it at the time, but
he hated it then, but he's gotten to do so much with the character now, he probably doesn't mind it as much, even if it's a bit garish.
Yeah. Also out now is First Doctor Adventures, The Outlaws, which released today, featuring 2 stories written by Lisbeth Miles and Lizzie Hopley. So Lisbeth and Lizzie, oh boy. And starring Stephen Noonan as the Doctor, Lauren Cornelis as Dodo, and Rufus Hound as the Monk.
Ooh. Interesting. And also just Dodo alone? Yeah, that would have been like in between like some of the episodes there.
So yeah, it would have had to be just Dodo alone would have to be after the Savages, unless I missed a casting for Steven.
Yeah, it would have been after Savages and before War Machines.
Before the next episode, right? Yep. And that is it for our news. Moving on to Geek Talk.
Moon Knight.
Yep, after the second episode of Moon Knight, it finally feels like there's enough to actually give a little bit of information about it. So each episode's an hour long. But the first episode, basically the first episode and a half, it really plays up the psychological thriller aspect of it. Like, you start off, all you know is that Steven has been losing time, sleepwalking, and waking up with bumps and bruises. You're like, okay, he's a sleepwalker. Then you find out these other things. You're like, okay, maybe he has dissociative identity disorder. Maybe he has multiple personalities because he's losing time and people are saying that they've talked to him during days he doesn't remember. You know, he thinks he has a bad dream and then he finds out 2 days have passed. So you don't know what's going on. Then he starts to have hallucinations, or at least it seems like he's having hallucinations. He sees things nobody else can see. He sees monsters, other things going on. You know, people are reacting to him weirdly, as you would expect, somebody who's reacting to things that aren't there. And then he starts to see this guy talking to him in a mirror, which, by the way, is not how any sort of multiple identities in real life work, but somehow in all of fiction, anytime someone has dissociative identity disorder, they also hear voices. That's just not how any of that works in anything outside of fiction. But yeah, so you're really wondering at this point, you know, is he just you know, does he just need serious medication, or is there something more going on? And by the way, I don't think the hallucinogens from his comic origin are involved in this story, as far as I can tell. At least not yet. But by about halfway through the second episode, it's pretty clear that there's more to this. You start to see, you know, there's a couple fight scenes, some actual powers happening. It's pretty clear that you know, I'm not going to say that he's not mentally ill in any way, but that's not the only thing that's going on. There's definitely something going on with Egyptian gods and whatnot. And, you know, at this point, we're here for the ride and seeing what's going on. The action scenes have been pretty minor thus far. There's been a lot of stuff off screen that implies major action scenes. Hopefully the action scenes are actually, you know, up to MCU quality and they're not like Iron Fist Season 1. But we don't really know that yet. But the mood setting is perfect. The Oscar Isaac playing, so far, 2 different characters. People who know the lore are suggesting that he's going to have at least a third identity by the end of the season, possibly as many as 5. I don't know, but he's so far done an amazing job. So like I said, it's really been a lot of a psychological thriller, and it's been a very great way to ramp up interest. And I guess with episode 3, the plot really, now that we know what the hell is going on and we know who all the major characters are, the plot should start to really pick up. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, and hopefully it keeps improving.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe it's Alex for a movie.
Yep. I finally got around to seeing Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Let me just say this ahead of time for everyone else that has seen it. We're sorry. It can droll on a little bit at times.
You know, yeah, like I can, like I said it in text chat, but like I can definitely see why this has been nicknamed the slow motion picture, because yeah, this movie is apparently like over 2 hours long, and it did not need to be.
No,
like,
this literally could have been an hour-long special on TV.
Like this isn't even like horrible, but it's just too long.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just literally too long.
Yeah, like
it's like they padded an episode of actual Star Trek with a higher budget.
Well, that's the funny thing is, from what I'm aware, this was technically supposed to be like this was taken from an idea for a pilot of a new show that never happened.
Mhm.
So like they essentially stretched out an episode of television into a movie.
Either that or it was supposed to be 2 episodes. Hard to tell.
Possibly, yeah.
It
But
would, yeah,
either way,
probably would have been one of the earliest two-parters then.
like generally it's supposed to be like one of the earliest, possibly like the pilot of a new show, and then never happened. So they just ended up taking the story and making it into a movie instead.
That
If they
happens a
cut-
lot, to be fair.
If they cut any time from it, how would we have had the 5-minute shot of looking at the Enterprise and continuing to look at the Enterprise?
Oh, and playing the music that would eventually become the theme for next gen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like it is funny how like you could cut a good 20 minutes out of this at least just by cutting out like model shots and reactions to model
Mm.
shots.
Yeah.
Like it's
Probably at least a
like
good
it
10 minutes for
really
sure.
yeah, which part of me like I feel like I've seen people joke it's like them wanting to show off how good the models look, but part of me is also maybe they realized, oh, we don't have enough. Like maybe they had to arbitrarily fit the time that this actually runs, so
No,
they were like
because an hour and a
artificially
half
inflating the
movies were
length.
normal still. And honestly, I prefer the days of hour and a half films.
So this came out in 1979. So
Mm.
their main thing would have been comparing themselves to Star Wars: A New
Yeah.
Hope,
Probably, yeah.
which was 2 hours and 1 minute. Although that might be the special edition because Google is not clarifying.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might have been like
I
10
no,
minutes shorter.
I have the normal versions on DVD as well, and they're roughly 2 hours and some odd minutes.
Okay, so
All of them.
so they were probably aiming for 2 hours because at this time they were like, this needs
Star
to be
Wars did it. Let's
this
do it
needs to be
too.
our Star Wars. I think
Yeah.
that might have been why they decided to do movie series instead of a new show. Although obviously they ended up
Yeah.
doing another show as well, not long after. But
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah,
like half a decade later.
mhm.
But yeah, it's just like if you cut like a good 15 to 30 minutes honestly off this movie, it would be a hell of a lot better. Would it necessarily be great? No, but it would at least not be like as much of a slog to get through. Like I will say, and like I feel like I said this in the text chat as well, but someone must have reined Shatner in for Wrath of Khan because this is just Shatner at his most like parodyable Shatner.
It's funny that
Like
you say that considering Wrath of Khan is the movie where Shatner screams so loud he can be heard from space.
Yeah.
I mean,
about
yeah, but
something
like
that
it
actually
fits.
never happened. He's
Yeah.
just acting in the scene.
Yeah, like it fits with the movie at least in that, but he's a lot more subdued. And this he's very like, oh, this is where all the Shatner parodies come from. Like this is like this and Wrath of Khan are really like my only exposure to Shatner as Kirk. So it was very much like, oh, so this is like the one because there were some lines that legitimately I had to pause the movie and laugh because it was just like, wow.
The one and only time I will ever defend William Shatner, this is probably the rustiest he has ever been for the character in terms of acting, because like he did the original series, the animated series. Then it was not quite 10 years, but definitely over 5 years before the first movie. And then he just worked movies constantly, and then they retired the character. So
Yeah.
this is definitely the rustiest he will have ever been for the character as of being the 1979
Being the
movie.
furthest away for the longest time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say this movie more than Wrath of Khan made me realize why so many people either jokingly or legitimately want Spock and Kirk or Kirk and McCoy or all three. to be a thing because, like, bloody hell, I don't know if it's like the actors. Well, I say the actors, Shatner, or like if everyone's aware of what's happening, but it's very like when like when Spock comes onto the Enterprise and like Kirk turns and sees him, the look on his face is like he looks like he wants to just jump on him.
To be
It's just
fair,
like
Kirk, McCoy, and Spock were definitely the beating heart of the original series.
mm,
You saw those three the most out of almost everybody. There was not an episode you did not see all
Yeah.
three, and they could be the best of friends on some episodes, and then be the worst of enemies. Literally, Spock comparing McCoy as to a witch doctor at some points in some episodes. I believe the quote was, "I would scare people away too if you kept going after them with your snakes and rattles."
Yeah, just like the especially like the line that I was primarily ready for because I've seen Linkara's review of the comic adaptation of this movie, but like Kirk just being like, "I need you badly," and just like the delivery of it and everything. I'm like, at the very least, Shatner knew what he was doing with that delivery.
To be fair, again, I think it's mostly just that they're being very tongue in cheek at times.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's very like either whether they're
which
actually
happened
meaning
even
to
occasionally on the
imply
show.
anything or just
You
throwing
gotta keep
fans a
yourself
bone.
entertained at work when you're,
Yeah.
if the job is boring you.
It's not Kirk's. It's not. It's not their fault that's the take they kept.
Yeah.
It's just
Also,
the one that most amused the editor, apparently.
If I was gonna say if they didn't want it to come off that way, the director could have spoken up.
Yeah, and then of course there's like later that all three are in a scene and he's telling McCoy that he needs Spock, and it's like just again the delivery of the I need him" is very like either it's just like they're having fun and playing it up because they know they were like aware of the shippers by then, and
That
so they were just
really
like
wasn't a
giving the
thing back
fans
then,
like
but again,
things, but yeah.
again, it might just honestly, it just might be the way they wrote it, and they're just like, okay, we're gonna ham it up because look at this writing.
Oh yeah, like I could absolutely, given it's Shatner, I could see him just kind of having fun with it rather than being like, yes, I will make it that Kirk is bi or something. Like I could see him being more like, oh, well, I'm gonna have fun with this.
Whereas the next movie was much more Shakespearean, so yeah, he's allowed to play it a little more straight.
But yeah, other than that, it's it's funny. Like I don't know. I guess because of the reputation I've heard of this movie, I was expecting it to be worse. But it's more like it's not bad, just a slog.
Yeah.
Because it's just overly long.
It's like a good episode of Star Trek, except it's way too damn long.
Yeah, like and it's funny because I realized that at the very least, the theatrical cut of Wrath of Khan is barely under 2 hours, and this is over 2 hours. So what does it tell you?
They took their lesson and trimmed a bit.
That to me says they were like, yeah, that probably was too long. Let's make the next one a bit shorter.
Let's trim the fat on the next one and then see how things go.
Which is funny because even like the version of Wrath of Khan I saw was the director's cut, and it basically just adds in like little character things that like add to it rather than being like, oh, you didn't need to have that. So yeah, yeah, like I would say it's still worth checking out, but let's just say I'm glad that I had downed 2 cans of Coke prior to starting because I was kind of feeling a bit sleepy when I started. I probably would have fallen asleep if I hadn't had any soft drink.
Alrighty.
All right, so that wraps up our geek talk.
Yep.
Which brings us to Matt and the summary.
Which I knew was coming, which is why I'm very quickly trying to load the cast so I can remember names. Okay. So if I need it, I got it. All right. Close this tab, and I have the stopwatch here. All right, I guess I'm ready. Should I just give myself a countdown?
Oh yeah, good point. Okay, so I've got 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so starting up the episode, Georgie and Starkey are basically watching a girl being attacked by some of the robot cops again. This girl was silently protesting the fact that they were been silently silencing the regular people of the city, trying to protest and fight back against what the corporations have been doing. To this, Georgie decides to throw a rock at a robot, which is ineffective as usual. They all start running. The girl that was protesting gets arrested. They just got Starkey and Georgie together and were about to use a new weapon on them, which he seems to use some sort of alien element, when it just basically backfires. K-9 is forced out of flying the entire episode because of this MacGuffin, and it blows up one of the robots, allowing the kids to escape. Because of all this is going on, Georgie's mom wants to force her into a school that's usually known for being very good at getting kids back on the straight and narrow, air quotes. And Starkey is forced yet again into hiding, while also having to help the professor trying to fix K-9 and trying to get his flight navigations and stuff back on track. This then focuses a lot on Georgie and the weird stuff at school. In particular, some girls that are part of a little clique group that wear these weird bracelets with a green stone on them. Very similar to the green stone we saw earlier being put into a gun apparatus. And Georgie's feeling like something weird is going on, but no one really seems to want to listen. And when she goes back to school again, she is handed over a bracelet as K-9 expositions over it that the bracelet is from an alien planet, and that the material there basically causes people to be easily brainwashed, especially if they are given it as opposed to forced it, whereas forcing it upon people did the explosion that we saw earlier. Georgie takes it. She comes back to the professor's place and starts acting really weird, which is when K-9 just barely gets his flying apparatus back and working in time to notice that there's an alien element and shoots the bracelet off. Realizing what's going on, Georgie helps the others get back to her school, trying to free the other girls. There's a fight when the girls are told by the head guy behind them that obviously she's no longer in control. She's no longer being controlled, and that they need to stop her from trying to get more bracelets and stuff, and fight ensues. Girls are eventually freed by K-9's blaster, and apparently have no memory of everything that went on, and the lead girl of the group turns out to be some sort of robot. With that being settled, that's basically the story in a nutshell, and that's the end.
All right, so it took about a second after I started before you started talking, but I have 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay. It took me a couple seconds to stop, and I've got 3:14, so relatively close.
Right.
So about 3 minutes.
Yep. I need to remind my ADHD self that Ran is not here to say what happens next. And that I cannot have all these different windows open. But I did the ritual coin flip, and Alex is first for what you liked about the episode.
I guess I liked the whole high school thing, or like, I guess in this case probably like a private boarding school or something.
Private boarding school, essentially, yeah.
Yeah. And just like the notion of doing the mind control that way, because like, I mean, this is supposed to be like, I mean, I guess essentially cyberpunk-ish on a budget.
Yeah.
So like, school where people are like being forced to wear things that mind control them to make them obedient. It's like, yeah, that fits.
Okay. That's it for that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So to Matt.
General thing I liked. Oh boy.
Visual effects, no, probably not.
No, the visuals weren't too bad, but they're nothing to call home about either. In particular, I liked that at least some of the kids were at least smart enough to realize something was really weird about those kids that always wear the vests and seem to pose in unison, walk in unison, laugh in unison.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a no-brainer of, something seems odd.
Right.
At least these kids aren't completely dumb.
Yeah. Okay, so just the fact that they had some wariness and didn't just go along with
Some
it.
proper weirdness, even though there is
Mm-hmm.
some other hand waving that goes on later. But for the most part, they're at least aware that something's up.
Okay. So for mine, I'm going to say the acting. Several characters here basically played 2 or 3 different roles. I especially want to highlight Sophia Emerson Baines as Vivica, who played, the actual character who's, an activist and everything. The like mind controlled borderline robot version of the character. And then she's the only one who really had to go all in on like that whole like flirting siren thing. And I think she was, for what it was, really effective in all of those roles, and pretty distinct. The same goes for anybody, other characters, actors who had more than one personality, but especially Vivica, I think, really was the standout of this episode.
Especially being for almost nameless side character in the episode.
Right. Yeah, who never appeared before or since.
Wah, wah.
All right, what do we dislike about the episode? Starting with Alex.
Let's see. This could be a scene, but it lasts so long throughout the rest of the episode after the initial scene where it comes up that I'll just say as an overall aspect. Starkey being a twit and thinking that, and like actually falling for
Vivica?
yeah, and being like, and not getting the hint at the end that
Right.
like she was only into you because she was brainwashed, dude. Like, I
Right.
get you're a teenager, but like, come on.
And actually, he was the one, like he was part of the conversation when they talked about the brainwashing and how it, like he literally saw the effects of it firsthand when Georgie was flirting with the guy whose name I forget because he didn't really play a role in the episode. Darius, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. It's just so like, really? You should be kind of smarter than that. Like, I could get him like kind of like, again, the teenage boy, I could see him being like kind of receptive to it, but like at the same time being like not have to be snapped out of it. But then like, he's holding a torch for her by the end of the episode, so it's just like I feel like he should have snapped out of it.
Right. Did you see the opening bump?
No, I didn't get a chance.
That I focused on that. It was that scene of her snapping out of it with him like, trying to like rekindle the shit that was never really there, and then a cover of Mariah Carey "Obsessed" playing over it.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what was going on with that background music. Okay.
So I guess now we're up to Matt.
Least favorite thing. Okay, so I can't remember who he is, but the greasy-haired bad guy with the cane that he breaks once, but has
The big
another
bad of the
replica of
episode, the
later.
guy in the office.
Is he the same guy in the office? I can't recall.
Or I don't know. That's the only. I don't know who you mean otherwise.
Like I said, the guy with the cane. He was there when they kidnapped.
Yeah, the recurring villain of the series.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So that was.
Yeah. His really kind of borderline creepy, obsessive watching of all of the brainwashed people. And apparently, and also even including the being very upset that he has to turn off his girl robot thing in order to stop everything and basically
Yeah.
cut ties and run.
Yeah, this is a thing where I'm glad this is a kid show and not Torchwood because there would be some really
that
fucked
starts
up
to lean
implications.
towards things where I really hope the show doesn't go.
It was already borderline rapey, so
Yeah.
Torchwood would have they would have gotten rid of the borderline.
Yeah.
Yep. No. Thank goodness this is in Torchwood.
All right, so this brings it to what I dislike.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say I do not fucking understand what's up with Georgie. Like I thought maybe she was like, "Oh yeah, we have to do the right thing," and then she's like, "It was fun to throw rocks at the cops.
Yeah.
I was bored. I had to throw rocks at them."
Yeah,
and then
that
she's
was nonsensical.
And then she's like the strong-willed person, and they're like, "Oh, but when I was flirting with the guy that you want to fuck, he liked my bracelet that you already know mind controls you." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess I'll put it on." What? I do not understand.
I think
what they were trying to hint was that some of that residue stuff that was missing with K-9 was also making her doubt herself, which is why she gave in to the bracelet.
I
literally did
that
was not very
while
clear.
saying that because I'm just
it's a thing of trying to go for she's coming from a position of privilege in that she's like, yay, activism is fun, and then she's learning that this isn't all
fun and games
kind of a thing. It's like I get what they're going for, but yeah, you could argue that the execution is a bit bungled.
Yeah, the execution is being much to be asked for.
I would say at best she's inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it brings us to favorite scenes with Alex.
Coming directly off that, honestly, my favorite scene was Georgie complaining about her time at the school and Starkey being like, yeah, I would guess that one hard day in a boarding school would be the hardest day of your life, because it's like him basically saying, lady, I live on the fucking street, like shut up. Like I've been on the run from this shit for years, like fuck you.
I was wondering about that because it's like, I mean, I'm sure he's probably dealt with something similar to being electrocuted, but that seemed to me like it was an excuse to be like, well, she could explain that there's literal mind control and that she's literally going to lose her free will, but he's blowing it off for the sake of the plot.
But she also didn't really explain it very well either. Just saying that it's the school.
While it's odd that she doesn't bring up the specifics, it's like, I mean, to be fair, by that point she hadn't quite grasped the mind control yet, but
even though she was literally talking about stuff that sounds like a mind control thing just before going back to them.
The literal first thing she was told was, don't put on the bracelets. These girls were normal. Then they put on the bracelets and became robots.
Yeah. But generally because she didn't know those people, she can't really see the difference. Whereas when it happens to Vivica, it's like, oh, so that's what's going on. Shit. But and like again, even that you could like be like, wait, what? But still, at least for me, it was like a nice thing of. At least it's where I got that one scene is where I got where they're coming from of like the idea of again, Georgie comes from a position of privilege, whereas Starkey is like literally on the run 24/7 from these people.
Right.
So like he has had a harder life than her, so he's able to be like, "Oh, you had one hard day at school, boo hoo."
Yeah, she didn't even really mention the part that she got electrocuted either.
Yeah, true.
At least that would have been something she could have easily mentioned, and they would have gone, "Wait, that's weird." But no, nothing. Never mind.
I'd say that was the most normal thing about it, because it's like if there's anything you would expect at like a cyberpunk British boarding school,
cyberpunk dystopian thing, yeah.
Yeah, like they would be that. So I guess that brings us to what Matt's favorite scene was.
My favorite scene, I guess it happened pretty early on. It would just be K-9 doing what he does best, getting in the way of the kids getting harmed and blowing up a robot.
Hero K-9.
Hero K-9 to the rescue, doing what he does best, and also the visual effects of that robot game blowing up were half bad.
That said, I'm noticing a pattern where they're like, okay, we need an excuse for K-9 to sit out half of the episode. Okay, there's the excuse. Then
there's
we just
excuse, and he's just
struggle to survive for half an episode without K-9, and then he swoops in and solves the problem at the end. Okay. Anything else on that scene?
That's about it. Very basic, but very fun scene.
I'm remembering Rand saying something about we always seem to have the most discussion of what Alex has to say, and that pattern seems to be holding true today. All right. So my favorite scene, this wasn't so much a scene that I enjoyed, but a scene that was super effective. The scene where, did we figure out his name? The bad guy, the asshole.
Damn, I forget. Yeah.
Oh, Drake. That's right. The scene where Drake is like, you don't know that she's a robot yet, and Drake is just like tuning her laugh to get it to the right pitch. He's like, higher, higher. And it's like flickering back and forth between the scene of like her laughing and his face. And it's like, I had a visceral, because I thought it was just, that was all the mind control, which I guess with the other girls it was. But he was just even more focused on manipulating this one, because she was a real robot. But like, I was just thinking about it as mind control with all of that. Like, I had a visceral reaction for it. I wanted to retch just the thought of him like micromanaging the pitch of like this mind controlled girl's voice, and it's like, as was mentioned, all of the attention paid, like that he's so fucking deep in this shit. I was just like, oh god, that is disgusting.
It reached very creepy levels, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, thank God, it's just a robot. Oh.
I mean, if it had gone, considering the effects of the Sirens thing, if it had gone on for another week, he definitely would have been guilty of some crimes that he needed to be put on a list for. But then again, he is the law and has no accountability. So
yeah, welcome to dystopia.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, it's weird that we're saying, oh yeah, the mind control is bad, but he really would have to be put on a list if he mind controlled them while they're doing the other stuff, the torture-y stuff. Anyway, so least favorite scenes, starting with Alex.
I'm gonna go with the reveal that the one girl is a robot, because it's such a like, wow, really?
And it doesn't cop up for all the creepy stuff that was going on.
Yeah, like it's more like they just like pull down the back of her shirt a little, and her hair's just not in the way, and it's like, oh, there's like two things on the back of her neck. That means she's a robot. I'm just like, Wait, what?
Right. And as we
Are you
mentioned,
not
like,
sure? Are you sure they're not implants? We're just
yeah,
gonna
like
immediately go robot. Okay,
this is a cyberpunk setting. That could mean that she was in a bike accident one day and they upgraded her.
because upgrading is compulsory.
I mean, I guess the whole her being a robot thing was a way to make sure that it stayed PG.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I guess like even I mean, I feel like even for Doctor Who they would have been like she was actually the true believer. She was the one person who like Drake had actually convinced to be on his side without needing mind control or something, but I guess this was their way of saying, yeah, the one that he's the most controlling over and the one who is a robot, and therefore it wasn't as creepy as it could have been. But
Yeah.
not saying the rest of it was great either.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very sudden out of left field thing. All right, Matt.
Least favorite thing. I believe, yeah, we kind of mentioned it before, but yeah, instantly CG K-9 to the rescue, and suddenly, after a few seconds of delay, suddenly he's the best shot in the game.
Yeah. So your favorite scene was the scene where they take him out of the episode, and then your least favorite was the
Really
scene where he
favorite
comes
scene is
back
when
in.
they immediately shoehorn him back in to solve everything.
So funny enough, mine is kind of similar to that. And mine is the fact that with no investigation, no effort, no reason to have prior knowledge, K-9 is just like, oh yes, clearly everything that is happening is because of this one element from this one planet where people are brainwashed and they're horny for each other, and like he knows everything that's going on without any sort of effort. All from the lab.
I give them a bit of restraint for calling the dynamic master and scribe, as opposed to another word that starts with S. Because if you really wanted to tone down
the one that was probably in the first draft.
We need
and
to
then
not
they
use
realized
that word on the children's show.
Yeah, it's like, no, this isn't Torchwood. We shouldn't probably imply a dynamic that has different connotations in modern time.
I mean, it definitely seems like a sex slavery thing kind of going on.
It was about the borderline to that, yeah.
Actually, yeah, just kind of. I mean, if you lose all free will, that's slavery, period. So, yeah.
Yeah.
As compared to a scribe who writes things. Very different than what was happening at the academy.
Well, apparently they're writing 50 Shades of... Oh, no, don't.
Oh, God. I guess we go into final thoughts. I feel like our discussion has been very quick, but that's what happens when we're down to three of us.
Yeah,
plus it's only a half hour. Yeah, plus it's only a half hour episode.
And it's K-9 isn't the most of all the shows we cover. K-9 is not the most complex one.
Yeah.
So, Alex, yep.
Yeah. I feel like this is an episode that, I almost feel like this could have been a two-parter to a point, in that, like, but only if like they could think of enough to go on after she puts on the bracelet. So like the bracelet is like the episode, the part 1 cliffhanger.
Like they had to get it off her and not just zap it.
Yeah.
Not instantly zap it.
Yeah. So like, yeah. If there'd been, they could have stretched that bit out a bit more.
Sorry, I almost want to interrupt your final thoughts, but it is your final thoughts, so go ahead.
But that aside, it's like, it's not bad. It's just, it's one of those things. It's like, it's not really like egregiously bad. It's just a matter of, and to be fair, because it's a kid's show, I'm likely to be a little bit more lenient. Not like entirely lenient. I'm not going to give them a full pass.
So judge it on the same category as Sarah Jane Adventures, then.
Yeah, essentially. So like even like I'm still gonna call them out for some things where it's like, yeah, it's a kid show, but it doesn't mean you have to like completely treat kids like twits. But it's a thing of like its main problem is just bungled execution in some things. Like they clearly want to make it like point out the difference in dynamic between Georgie and Starkey, and where one of them's basically essentially homeless, and the other is from a life of luxury, but it's just kind of a bungled execution. I mean, part of that is probably just because they have a half hour, so they're like, we have to streamline this as much as possible, but I don't know. Yeah, other than that, the acting's fine for the most part. And the concept is interesting, and again, I'm just glad that this ain't Torchwood, because there would be some implications that I would not want any Doctor Who related show to be inferring at all. In this, so thank God for that.
All right, Matt.
So I guess it's up to me. Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas in here. If there's any failing in this particular episode, it is the execution. I'm not sure what's up with that. That being said, the execution has also left some weird moments in this one, which, again, as we previously mentioned, could borderline on some big severe real world crimes. So thankfully, immediately ducks away from those at the last minute to completely avoid it, and leaves every adult in the room going, oh, "Thank God." Okay.
Anything else?
That about covers it, and that's very bare basics on what is good and what's bad. And by the way, really good acting.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a focus for somebody.
Yep, that dovetails nicely into mine. I was going to say the best thing about this is the acting, especially the guest cast. The worst thing about it is the writing. Yeah, I agree that if it was a completely different serial, that it would be better. But no, yeah, especially if, for example, they actually had to figure out what was happening instead of K-9 just already knowing, which kind of ruined the conflict of the story, especially since he was also the one to solve it.
Well, he solved it because he was part of Plot B, and Plot B was still tied to Plot A, kind of indirectly.
Like, Georgia was only really there to expose the problem, and even then she kind of did a bad job of it, considering she immediately became part of the problem the first chance she got. So yeah, character writing could have been better. Plot writing could have been better. Visuals could have been better. Not being creepy, child predatory could have been better, but at least that just makes the episode scarier, I guess. But it's
it does get that, it does reach that borderline moment for a moment there.
Yeah.
Right. And again, good job with the guest cast acting, and that's probably the best thing I can say about it. But yeah, especially if we were to compare this to like a Sarah Jane Adventures episode, not the greatest. I struggle to say it's even on par with an average episode. It could have really used some more cooking. And that's the end of my final thoughts. So now we move to ratings.
Alex?
Sure. It's one of those things of like, as nice as I was, it's also like, can I really justify giving it that high marks or anything? And I don't really think so. So I'm probably, you know what? Yeah. Let's see.
This is quite the internal conflict here.
God.
Apparently.
Yeah, oh God. It's like I almost settle on something and then I'm like, Do I really
Yeah,
want to?
no. Yeah.
And then I guess if I just compare it to the show it's in and Sarah Jane and nothing else, I would probably give this a 3.5.
3.5. Matt.
I am in exactly the same spot, 3.5. Just comparing it as the show as it is by itself, which technically kind of is.
I disagree.
It's mediocre, and it's only
I'm-
above mediocre because of the
I'm-
acting.
I am definitely going to be the pessimist here, and I'm going to give this a 2.5.
Okay, we'll see where Randy falls then.
Yep.
But
So
we
that
can get
for the time being, the average is a 3.17,
Oh, we're
and we'll
technically
see
on
what
the
Rand
closer
has to
end.
say. Yeah, it's a little because there's two of you and one of me, so we'll see what Rand says.
All right.
Where does that put it? That puts it 3.17. Yep.
I think it would be 330, possibly.
I'm seeing around 328 or 329. So in terms of spin-offs, what is that on par with? It's around the score of K-9, or yeah, it's around the score of K-9 Regeneration / Liberation two-parter. Just slightly above that. It's not as good as The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. And it's better than Sarah Jane Adventures Secrets of the Stars. All right, so that wraps up our review of Sirens of Ceres. Don't forget to let us know what you think on YouTube and in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to get our exports every week, or follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Tuesday night. Especially because next week we look at a new episode with Legend of the Sea Devils, written by Chris Chibnall and Ella Road, starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan, and John Bishop as Dan Lewis. See you then.
Blank of the blank. Hooray!